Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station. I'm your host, Roman. We have a good show planned for you today. Don't forget to stay tuned to IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station for Warriors Talk with my girl, Rochelle, at 6 p.m. Tonight, my guest is a global investor and eight-figure serial entrepreneur, international wealth strategist, and chairman of Anderson Roll Industries. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome to David Anderson. Welcome to the Drive, sir.
Hey, thanks, Roman. Appreciate it.
Please give IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station your background.
Yeah, look, in simple forms, the background is pretty much grew up in Southside Chicago, and I grew up in some of the, the poor sides of the city, but it wasn't really growing up poor. It's more, my mother had a grave disability that, during the time in the 80s and 90s, mental health was not as accepted as it is today. And so she had paranoid schizophrenia. That created a lot of drama as a child, obviously. Caused divorce, it caused poverty, it caused a lot of things. And, that really shaped kind of my worldview. But, more so, I think what shaped my view was to be able to, some people, when you grow up in environments where life seems short, because 18 friends died before I was 18, I saw it as, man, it must be a reason why I'm here, right? And so because of that, that's what led my career into what it was. And I'm really happy. I'm happy for just being alive, but also feeling like, as a Black man, I should say that, I feel that the purpose of us being some of the first human beings here on Earth is to really create opportunity and defy the odds in our spaces. And so, the background was just, one of struggle, but that led to a lot of opportunity for me.
You worked for former President Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Tell us about the capacity working for the former president.
Man, that's well, I'll say this to you. Because of that experience, I actually don't want to be president. I will take vice president because you get all the perks without the pressure.
How did it come about? It's not easy getting to work for the president of the United States.
No, it's not easy. Well, it was a different route. Actually, I tell you, that was never part of my plan. What was part of my plan was that I had, educated myself, and I strategically had decided for myself to. I read 600 books as part of my story between 19 and 23. I had forfeited college to look after my brother and sister. What transpired was that I'm sitting at Goldman Sachs. I ended up getting to Goldman Sachs, and when I'm at Goldman Sachs, I'm meeting all these people, and so many people have worked for senators, presidents, Clinton, Bush, Reagan, or whoever, and I'm just like, man, so many people have worked for government officials. And I met a guy, a friend of mine today. His name is Robert Refkin. Robert founded the company called Compass, real estate company. Today, Robert is the only Black man to ever found a Fortune 500 company that he actually runs, which is a great honor. Shout out to Robert Refkin for that. But he said, man, Dave, you should go for it. I went for it, found a path. People don't know I got denied 6 times. When you get denied from the White House, it's kind of like, but you kind of like, oh, okay. But, I kept going with it.
You just put your resume in?
Not just put your resume. I mean, you need it's a combination of network, opportunity, time, background. It happened at the time, in 2010, 11, I think President Obama had a challenge. The administration had a lot of people who were on a campaign and who were very political, but did not have, technical, analytical, operational skills. And so they were looking for that. The time I applied, and when I came in, it was like organizing a lot of stuff. And you'd be shocked. The White House, and when I came in at that time, I felt like they were behind as an institution, probably 6 years in their technology and the way they did things. And so when I came in the front office, I dealt with less policy. I dealt with more of the operation of the White House. which was phenomenal for me because I got the chance to work with everybody. I got a chance to work with domestic policy, public engagement, State Department, because I was dealing with, hey, if you were coming to the White House, it was strategic plans for that. You had a meeting with the president, right? What was all the follow up for that stuff, and how did he execute? Who had to be involved in the other follow up meetings? And so in the front office, it was phenomenal because I got a chance to work with some everybody. But it was a lot of administrative, also structuring, right? Because it was a new era. President Obama was a social media president, and the institutions did not have a social media infrastructure, right? And so it was an interesting time for me. But the biggest thing I took from that was that policy really happens locally. The White House has influence, but you really make impact locally. Like at that level, you're dealing with a lot of international stuff, a lot of domestic, national stuff. But impact really happens locally. That's probably the biggest thing I took from that.
Did you say like, wow, I'm working in the White House?
Oh, for sure. I brought my grandmother, my grandfather. God bless them. They passed away. I did, man. It was less the White House for me. It was more, I was working for a Black man, and I mean, for those listening, if you've ever had the moment where, for us, as you look up and you see like Black excellence and you experience Black excellence, like that really shaped a lot. Even what I'm doing right now, it shaped a lot of my thought process because, if I get some of our generations who anything that was powerful or excellent, it was in white circles. They had to go into white circles, at least in America, right? I can't speak for my Brazilian brothers or Britain brothers, but like that was the power and the knowledge was concentrated to white circles. And so here I was, while there was still a lot of white people around, a Black man was at the helm and leading decisions, leading the discussions, where white people were looking up to him. And that really shaped my thought process on a lot. And then I got a chance to go to Africa on behalf of him for some things. And I mean, it changed my trajectory. That's why I think exposure is powerful. Like if parents are listening, exposing your children to things is more powerful than teaching them because they can believe more what they see than what they hear or read. And so for me, it was, it changed my whole outlook on life.
Speaking of powerful, you have an asset of over $107 million.
Yeah, asset base.
How did you build that amount of assets from start to like now?
Sometimes for my own self, it's unbelievable. But I mean, I had a buddy of mine who's a billionaire, and he came and speak at a thing we had. He said, every billionaire of everybody first became a millionaire, And I would tell you, for everybody that gets to 100 million, first had a million, 10 million, first had 100,000. I'm very, very diversified. I own health technology companies that have been done very well. I own Amazon and FedEx companies, logistics. I actually operate those in the logistics space. We run over about 100 trucks a day for different things. I own a water company, international water company, where we can purify water in some of the most remote areas in the world. You start to learn after a while that.
And nobody hasn't contacted you in regards to, hey, why won't you come to my community where we got lead-based water or something like that? You're the guy.
We are working. Anybody got any connections, please reach out. Water Station International. Water Station International, just reach out to us. But we had a meeting with Muskegon and Flint on some things. Water is a very deep topic, man. If I go through water is it's probably going to be, I'm in it now. I'm a little early to the game. We're doing well. We're United Nations certified. But water is like one of these things where like it is going to be the gold, the cobalt, diamond of the future because we are in a shortage of clean water around the world. And it's a tough thing. The problem is that, see, water, and just real quick, quick education. Clean water is based on infrastructure. So everything that we have as far as considered clean water It's based on infrastructure. Well, in the United States and a lot of the quote unquote developed world, that infrastructure was built like 100 years ago. So when you have water going through pipes that have lead, corrosion, whatever the like is, in order to purify that water, usually you have to put a lot of chemicals in it, right, in order to purify it. And that's a problem around the world right now, right? And so every country and nation is trying to figure out how do we keep our water clean and not just chemicalized, right, but actually bring clean water. So the fight over glaciers, the fight over water springs, the fight over all of this stuff exists, or technology to clean water. So water's real deep, man. It's deep. It's deeper than we know. Like in 10 to 20 years, we're gonna have like a water revolution around the world, for sure.
And you're probably one of the first Blacks to be in the mix of that.
Yeah, I am. And let me tell you, first, let me tell you how the deal came about, right? Just so you know, like I actually kind of accidentally got into this space. So I get a phone call. So currently I'm the honorary consul for the country of Uganda. I represent Uganda on economic trade as well as culture. I love the position. Uganda's a beautiful country, resources galore, everything. So I'm at a buddy's house. He brings his hedge fund guy in. And he's like, "I want you to meet him." I'm like, "I don't want to meet no hedge fund guy." He's like, "Why?" Like, "Cause you want some money from me. I don't feel like dealing with my hedge fund." He was like, "No, I want you to meet him." So I meet him. Me and this guy, we talk, right? And he's like a different type of hedge fund guy. He understands business. He's like an asset guy, because I'm an operations guy now. And so he's telling me about this stuff, about this water thing. And the first time I looked at the water thing, he took the company from like 700 machines to like 7,000 machines. And they were in Circle K, Home Depot, Walmart. So when you go to Walmart and you go to Home Depot, you'll get those like 5-gallon jugs of water and fill it up. Those are our machines, right? Or the company I'm on. So
have you ever go to the water department, like let's say the suburban or township, and say, "Hey, let's make this happen"?
I mean, yeah, it's a conversation. So yeah, so I will tell you what happened to the story. So meet this guy, hedge fund guy. We meet, nothing. I come back from Uganda. Somehow my buddy is talking to his wife about my trip in Uganda. The wife starts crying. It's like, why is the wife crying? Well, didn't know it. They had adopted a 16-year-old like 5-6 years ago from Uganda, whose whole family was in a in a refugee camp on the border of Uganda and Kenya, right? So they reach out to me. It's like, "David, man, can you help this family? Can you blow about their stuck?" It's like 6 kids plus the mother and father. I say, "Okay, let me make a phone call." Long story short, I do my magic, make my phone calls. The guy comes in. We do kind of a whole thing. We get the family out the refugee camp, right? Now, mind you, this dude has spent like $1 million with United Nations lawyers trying to get the family out. And I get him out on a phone call. So he comes to me and he says, "What do you want?" Literally, like, "What do you want? 7-figure check. Let's go." I say, "You know what? I don't want your money. That water thing, I want all the rights internationally." And that's what they did. So that's how that deal worked out. And so I got in. So we're over the international space. Like we're in after Ukraine, we're doing stuff with Syria, Uganda. Syria's crazy. The phone call with Syria with what's the leader? The leader of Syria. They just put him back in power. What's his name? Not Ahmad. Assad. Yeah, Assad's people. So it's crazy. We gotta go over to Syria, work with Assad's people and some stuff. But yeah, man, yeah. Sorry, random. I know, like random kind of like story.
No problem.
But yeah.
We're gonna have you back to talk extensively about water because it is detrimental, especially in the Black and brown community. So we would love to have you to come back
Absolutely.
and discuss that. Explain to us, what is a global investor?
Look, I talked to my media PR folks. They put the name together. I mean, I think what it means is that somebody, so like I have interest in China, I have interest in Africa, I have interest in Europe, all in different countries. And I think what it is that it just means that we think of an investor, right? And not just stock, right? actual like companies, hard, pure companies that sell products and services. That you have enough exposure to markets where you actually can get a piece of the pie. Like I'm looking at real estate projects right now in Dubai and parts of Qatar. Like, but you have the wherewithal to know how to invest in different markets, right? And there's some of it is formulaic. You learn different certain formulas, but some of it is also exposure, right? You've been exposed enough, you traveled enough to be able to see those markets and for what they can do well and what what opportunities lie. So that's really what it means.
How can a person become a global investor?
Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing, when I talk, speaking to young brothers, sometimes, older brothers, we're in that state in which I'm stepping into. We're dealing with kids, aging parents, different things, but you can still do it. But especially younger brothers, instead of, I get it when you're young, you want to run around, you want to get women, you want to, hang out, club, all that kind of stuff. I just say, okay, if you do it, man, like save your pennies up, right? And do it, have fun over in Thailand, have fun over in Nigeria, go to Lagos, go to Beijing, because you're going to learn so much culturally. Like when you get exposed to different cultures, you start to see parallels. See what happened to me when I read 600 books, I started to see trends. I started to see like patterns, right? Because you can read, after you read 17 biographies, right, of some of the greatest people in the world, you start to see patterns. Like I can't explain those patterns totally, but you see like, oh, they went to schools like this. Oh, they're like, the pattern went like this. Oh, and so even when you travel globally, there's patterns. And even I understood America better. I understood capitalism better. You know what I'm saying? There's a hood everywhere you go in the world. When I say a hood, there is a hood everywhere you go in the world, right? China tries to hide theirs a little bit, but it's a hood everywhere, right? Why is that? Because the way capitalism is structured and works, right? It's a ladder, but also it has certain downsides to it, right? Where there is a if you don't have the right government programs in place, those that are mentally ill or handicapped, whatever the case may be, disabled, they get stuck at the bottom. And so, you start to understand capitalism. I really encourage brothers, look, you need to travel, especially when you're young, no kids, no, like, dude, get like now plane tickets, couple $100, get on the plane, spend that 10,000 and literally go visit places and learn culture. It'll help you understand who you are better. I have two sons. My hope for them, when they turn 18, I don't even want them to go to college right away. Don't even go to college. I want you to, go around the world. Here's a bunch of United airline credits, right? And I want you to visit countries. I want you to engage cultures. I want you to go to villages. I want you to go see the Aztecs, go see the Aborigines in Australia, right? Go see culture so you can understand how the world works. And that way you can make better decisions because you understand your place in the world, right? And then how you can contribute to it.
Let's say,
sorry for the long-winded answer.
No problem. Briefly, let's say I want to become an investor and don't have any money to invest.
Yep.
How can I become an investor living check to check?
So here's the reality. You cannot, right? It is. You can invest, but you cannot become an investor. What I mean by that, investors, right, have enough capital in order to, if I have $100,000, that means I'm investing across 10 companies, 10,000 each. I expect 8 of them to fail, but I only need 2 to win. And I get better over time. If you're living check to check, the reality is that you probably need to go and work with someone in a financial advising space, budget, right? Look at where you can save money so you can save capital. You cannot invest without capital. Cash is king. Whoever holds the money wins. So I'm just being straight with everybody. Like, you need capital to invest, or you take your capital, you start a business, and those businesses produce capital for you to invest. A lot of my investments happen because I've had major profitable years, right? If I got the way the capitalist system works, when you make a lot of money, the government sits back and says, okay, thank you for making money on our platform. We'll take our royalty. That's what taxes are, essentially, right? The governments believe that you're able to do what you're doing because of their platform, because the government that they've created to allow you to do it. And so they say, give me my royalty fee, right? That's taxes. If you don't want to pay taxes, then you have to flip that money and reinvest it in something else in order to avoid that royalty, which means they say, okay, you're reinvesting in the GDP, right? So if you don't have any
Just in
money,
case, what is GDP?
the gross domestic product. So that is the addition of production, addition of capital production. My gosh, it's basically all of the activity in a nation that produces economics, right? Essentially, is what it is. Yeah, their GDP.
The city of Chicago and Illinois have grants and loans
Mhm.
for people who wants to invest. However, grants and loans are not that easy for blacks
No.
to get because
No.
some grants are asking for credit scores and too much
Mhm.
information to discourage individuals for even applying. Your thoughts on applying for local and state grants or loans that acquire too much information?
I, I'm not an expert on it. I mean, I know that there are people I've met. They are experts in navigating that space. I'm not an expert on it. I didn't build any of my wealth through those avenues because I didn't even get any PPP. I mean, I, look, I find it, and I'm on, I'm talking to black people, right? I just find it atrocious personally that like for a people that we built this nation for free, essentially spent hundreds of years working for free. And now when opportunity does exist in these areas of the financial, sectors, right? Like we have to go through extra hoops in order to get things because we're considered a more riskier, person or whatever. I just think, I mean, honestly, I just talked to a sister, man. She's a sister I know, she's building a huge development. Man, I'm taking her over to Qatar and Dubai. I'm like, look, let's go to this investment forum. Let's go talk to them, right? Because they see it as, okay, I'm investing in America, not I'm investing in Black America. That's not how they see it. They just see it as opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And so I personally, it's all good. There are people that, if you want to go that route, find the experts who know that system, the cronyism of it, and have them help you navigate it. That's what I would say. Because in my experience, a lot of times that stuff is a waste of time. I'm not saying it is a waste of time, but in my experience, it's been a waste of time.
What type of grants or loans would you recommend someone that has bad credit, bankruptcy, or even foreclosure on their credit report?
Well, here it is. I mean, I tell you this part of my story, man. When I jumped into real estate when I was 20, I went bankrupt at 22. I had $6 million in real estate before the crisis that took place in '08, and I went bankrupt. Right, so bankruptcy. If you go bankrupt, you have basically after about 2 years your credit resets. So you got to build it right, and then after roughly about 7 to 10 years, it falls off anyway. Right, no, on my record, bankruptcy doesn't even exist. Now, right? I had a lawyer show me this. I was 22 years old, stressed out at the laundromat. Again, taking care of my mother, brother, and sister. I'm not in college yet. I'm in real estate. I had no doc loans, doing this stuff. And the lawyer was like, man, let me show you something. Show me bankruptcy. I was like Donald Trump's done it 3 times. I was like, okay, well, it's great. And it hit me for a minute, but it was shocked. It didn't stop me from getting in the White House. The FBI called. They asked about it. I told them the story. They said, okay. It didn't stop me from getting into Goldman Sachs. It didn't stop. So it's funny because I feel like bankruptcy for middle and lower middle class is a huge deal, right? But as I've went scaled up, especially dealing with, billionaires and the like, man, they'll bankrupt a company so fast. Like, hey, that company didn't work out. Okay, bankrupt that. Like, sort it all out, be done with it. So I do think it's we put a lot of pressure on it because of consumerism. But when you get into business economics, like you see bankruptcy is a means to an end. So I don't want to go bankrupt again, but it's a means to an end for, economic opportunity.
Here's the $107 million question.
Yes,
Should
sir.
people seek investment advice from social media?
All right, here's my $107 million answer. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Don't ask a blind man what to turn on the road. Why?
Is this rhetorical? Or
It's rhetorical, right?
Oh, okay.
Because he can't see. He doesn't know what to turn on the road. You see what I'm saying? Most people, I crack up, but I'm like, most people in the financial advice space are not wealthy, are not millionaires. And I find it comical myself. I'm like, I told my friend, I said, how is it that people who are non-millionaires are advising other people who are millionaires and people who are trying to become like, it's the most like, what the financial space is crazy. Not to say you can't have knowledge. I mean, when I worked at Goldman and JP Morgan, I was making six figures and, you know, I was learning and giving people insights, but I was doing more research analysis and also as an investment banker doing the transaction. But I still think that it's done. So you asked me about financial advice. This is what I would say to you, right? Talk to people, whatever you're trying to do, talk to people who've done it, even if you got to pay them something for their time, and they're going to give you better advice. So, example, right now, recession's hitting. Cole, I was just talking to my PR guy about it, right? Crazy. Like, I'm like, yo, I'm buying gold right now from the public. We're setting up shops and we're just buying gold. It's the best time for people to sell gold as a consumer. The bet gold is at an all-time high, $2,000 an ounce. Like price has never been as good. Okay. Best time to sell gold, right? Was it why are you buying? Well, I'm buying obviously at cheaper prices because I'm buying your broken gold. I'm buying all of that stuff, right? I'm taking it to my wholesalers, my smelters, right? And then we're flipping it. So we're making, if I, give you $500 for the gold, right? I'm able to make, $50 or $100, right? To flip it real quick. You see what I'm saying? Like, but gold is at an all-time high. So that margin is higher now than it would have been two years ago because the prices are higher. So I always tell people, look, I can make 10% off of 100,000, that's $10,000. I make the same 10% off $1 million, that's $100,000. I make the same 10% off 100 million, that's $10 million. Right? So when you're dealing with the game, especially with finance, it's all about the law of large numbers. Oh, yeah. You can reach out to 708-883-GOLD, 708-883-GOLD if you want to sell your gold. Better prices than pawn shops and everybody else. So, yeah. Cashtoday.go.
As an investor, are we truly in an inflation? A lot of people saying, I don't really think we're in an inflation. I think it's man-made. And the reason why is because consumer spending is still up there. It's not down. You can tell inflation if it's inflation.
Yeah.
However, is this inflation as an invest? What? I'm not getting the
I
question.
love it. I love this. Go ahead. This is intellectual radio. This is intellectual radio. Let's go. Come on. Come with the economic question. Let's go. I'm ready for it.
You got Earl laughing at me. So is it really an inflation period for investors? Period.
Yes. Okay. So first off, what is inflation? All right. Inflation is a spike or precipitous rise, right, in prices because of people have more cash to pay for things. So meaning that, so inflation happens because essentially people got too much money. And they got too much money, right? It's made up essentially because, the World Banks, the Federal Reserve, they control these interest rates, right? But the purpose of that is so that we don't have hyperinflation and then our dollars don't mean anything. So let me go to your question. I love this intellectual radio economics. Here we go. Ready for everybody. Let's go. What happened during the pandemic was something that was pretty, on an economic level, pretty phenomenal. And yet also it's put us in a kind of this space of stagflation, which we can get into, right? Stagflation. So what took place was this. All of a sudden, the world stops. Boom. Everything stops. Everybody locked in their house, right? Like whatever. Everyone's still getting paychecks from their job, per se, right? For the most part, okay? So now I'm not spending money on gas. I'm not spending money on as much eating out. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? So they got more capital that way. Then the government came out with policy around the world and said, hey, we're going to give you money because we don't want our economies to fold, right? So we're going to give you money so you can spend it. So what happened? Only, a couple people could buy a Rolls Royce, right? 1 out of 100 people. Now all of a sudden with the money saved, 3 out of 100 could buy a Rolls Royce. So the same Rolls Royce that exists, instead of 1 for 1, now you got 3 to 1. You got 3 people wanting the same Rolls Royce. Well, what happened? The manufacturer and the makers go up on the price because demand increased. Okay. So, and then also then it became supply chain issues. With supply chain issues with shipping and logistics, you had shortages. So you have more demand for the same product, but less supply. What happens? Prices go up. Now, here's the man-made part, and I'm gonna put you on some game. I do global trade. Global trade is one of my biggest things. I'm doing a trade right now with some guys in Florida, like for a couple $1 million. Like I love trading products around the world. So because we had these supply chain issues, let me tell you what happened. So let's say I'm going to use you for example. You're the maker of microphones, and I'm the distributor of microphones. And Crazy is the buyer. He needs microphones for his studios. Okay. So manufacturer has supply chain issues when the whole economy shut down because of COVID, right? So as a distributor, I couldn't get the stuff, so I had to pay you a higher price, which in turn I had to charge Quasi a higher price, right? Now, when supply chain caught up, right? When the supply chain caught up and there weren't shortages anymore, the manufacturers needed more orders, so they went back down on the prices. But a lot of American distributors, right? Now, mind you, if I was buying it from you from 10 and I was selling it to him for now, at first I was selling the microphone for 50, but now I'm selling it to you for 100 because of COVID, right? It went up, right? So now the price went from 10, but now I'm getting it back from you for $2, right? But I'm not passing on the savings because he's still willing to pay 100, right? So some of this inflation, I'll tell you right now, being in Asia, some of it is man-made in the sense that you have American distributors who have kept prices high because they can, and they keep screaming what? Supply chain. I'm telling you right now.
But can the government say, you know what, enough of this BS?
But they don't know what's happening. That's happening on the street. That's street level stuff. The governments, remember, they're in ivory towers.
But they can look at the CEO and look at their big bank account and say, you know what? You laid off a whole bunch of people. You're making close to $200 million.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
What's going on here? Why they're not finding the corporations?
You know, man, look, I'm gonna tell you something. From the White House, having my experience. Unfortunately, the way politics work in democracies or republics is that, it's all about voters, what I consider voters' appetite, right? What the voters want, what they're talking about. That's what they read. I watched one thing. I watched what's called the switchboard. So you can call the White House. It goes to us. You can't actually speak to the president, but you can call the White House to a switchboard, right? And make complaints or talk about the country or whatever it is. We actually watch those numbers and see what are people calling about. Obviously, social media, what people are, what words they're using on social media, all of that stuff, right? It's not coming up right now, right? Because everyone's being told what? It's a supply chain issue. Like when I tell you, hey, it's a supply chain issue, I can't get you that microphone. What are you gonna do? Say, oh, well, change the supply chain. No, because you don't even know how the supply chain works. So right now, yes, the American distributors are making a hand over fist. Like literally, I'm working with companies right now, 10, 20, 30, $40 million companies. I'm taking one product that they're paying like $1,000. Just give me an example, housing, the sockets that go into your housing for your electricity, right? Pocket sockets. Right now, those sockets are going for builders got to pay a piece that used to cost $300-$400. They're paying $1,500, $1,800 for right now. I made some phone calls to my guys over in Asia. Come to find out, I'm getting it for $85. So I'm gonna sell it to them for $400. I'll make a pretty penny on it, but they're selling it to them for $1,500, and there's no supply chain problem. They're just screaming supply chain because they're making money from it right now.
Okay, because
sorry, I know.
No. Because of time's sake, I'm going to ask this question for you. This has come up, and I really want to know your opinion.
Sure.
The government has started the Fed Now currency. As an investor, should we be concerned about Fed Now, and people who are investing in cryptocurrency should be concerned as well?
Now remind me. I'm very familiar with BRICS. I'm very familiar with Fed Now currency. Is what's going on?
Fed Now currency just released an announcement last week.
Okay.
all over social media, they said the cash dollar, they're trying to replace the cash dollar. The Fed over the weekend, the Federal Reserve had to release a statement that it's not replacing the dollar, meaning actual cash.
Fed now is the Treasury's own crypto?
Yes. Yeah, a Cash App version of it.
Look, I haven't studied and researched it. This happened last week, so I missed it. I was on a couple forums about BRICS, but I missed the Fed now thing. So I understand. Let me see if I understand this correctly. The Treasury Department has created Fed now currency,
correct,
which is a way to invest in a dollar or invest in the Fed's cryptocurrency.
It goes to, let's say, credit unions, banks. It's an easy form to get your money instantly instead of waiting days, to my understanding. And it's a form that you know how sometimes you put a check in the bank and it takes 3 or 4 days, maybe even a week to cash.
Yes.
So they're saying if you do that, you do it at a credit union or it will be instant.
So you use Fed now.
Use Fed now, yeah.
And it'll be instant.
So, yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to try and have you back. You're from Chicago, right?
I am.
Okay, we're going to have you back.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to give you time to ask Fed now, because a lot of people want to know about it.
Okay.
So please come back.
Yeah, we're going to it. And I want everyone to plug this.
Yeah.
1 million black men, right?
So what we're going to do is ask this question.
Yeah.
Please give Intellectual Radio /iHeartRadio station how they can get in contact with you.
Yeah, check us out. We're having a global Black Men event at the end of the month. It's 1millionblackmen.com. Again, that's 1 million, the number 1 millionblackmen.com, bringing it across together the diaspora, Black Brazilians, Black Americans, Black Britons, for one night, talking about wealth creation for 7 generations.
Okay. We're going to have you back. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer, Wanda, who's behind the scenes. You guys have a wonderful week.
Good stuff.
Peace, Chicago. How you doing? This is Kwesi Gaharo, poet, nominee for Chicago's inaugural Poet Laureate. You're listening to the Drive at 5 radio show with Roman. Peace and love.